Hi, guys. This is Sean, the Sheriff McMorrow, and I am in the Boo Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Battle of Ontario Hockey Podcast, featuring a Senators fan and a Leafs fan. We're here to talk about your two favorite teams, the rest of the NHL, local hockey, hockey all around the world, and to bring back memories from your favorite hockey teams and players. If you love the Leafs, Sens, B-Sens, NHL, or any other hockey, including the late Belleville Bulls, you are going to want to tune into our podcast. The gloves are off, the buckets are spinning, let's get the chirps flying. Welcome to the Boo Club!
All right, guys. Today we have on a man who played 13 years of pro hockey and still counting. He started out his journey by playing 3 years in the OHL, where he'd go on to become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He would go on to be drafted by the Buffalo Sabres in the 2000 NHL entry draft. He made his NHL debut for Buffalo in the 2002-2003 seasons and played 4 years in their system. After Buffalo, he traveled the world playing in multiple professional leagues, where he was one of the most feared heavyweights of his generation. He still plays to this day, along with running one of the most popular hockey podcasts in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the best hockey guys we know, the Sheriff, Sean McMorrow. Sean, thanks for joining. How's it going, buddy?
Woo!
There we
It's
go.
good, guys. I'm just happy and honored to be on your show. That was an incredible intro. Like, I feel like I'm just about to step on the ice right now. That's how fired up you got me going.
Oh, perfect. I love it, buddy. So I guess where I want to start is the Sheriff. That's just such a catchy nickname, and it kind of sticks with the show. So tell me the origin stories of the Sheriff nickname. When did it start, and were you the guy that keep it going, or how did it keep going through the years?
All right, awesome. Well, first, thanks for asking that question, because I love answering it, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first time that I ever heard the Sheriff nickname was actually when I was in that notorious league, the LNAH, okay, so the pro league in Quebec. And I was playing for St. Hyacinthe, which is a team that is about 45 minutes east of Montreal. So it's a pretty good spot. So most of the guys live in Montreal. A lot of the guys were speaking English, and it was a very comfortable situation for me. That was the year that I ended up getting the world record, 86 fighting majors in the one season, right? So early on in the season, I was off to a pretty good start. Like, I was pretty much getting 1 or 2 fights a game. Like, I was still a pretty decent player at this time, because I had just come from the AHL, which was a lot of a higher level than the LNAH. Yeah. So I was playing a regular shift as well. My owners were very happy with me. And my one owner, we were at our hangout bar that we would go to after the game. It was a bar that he owned called the Le Zipper. And, he came up to me in this big, thick French accent and just said, "From now on, we call you Le Sheriff."
I love it.
Yeah, man. So this was back in 07, 08, okay? And then ever since then, I just kind of kept it. And when I went to the Belfast Giants, I have to mention, guys, they really embraced it. They had merchandise. Actually, you know what? This T-shirt right here, because I know you guys have the video, the video podcast. This T-shirt right here is actually one of the Sheriff shirts that the Belfast Giants had made, and we were selling in the store. We also had little badges. So that's pretty much the short version of the Sheriff story.
I love that.
You got to be proud of that, though, eh? Like, how many guys have their own merchandise? It's not like you're a wrestler, you know what I mean? But hockey guys, how many guys? Like, that's pretty cool. I love it.
Dude, I am and was so proud. So, like, you hit the nail right on the head, man. I'm so proud to have merchandise that says the Sheriff. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna give this to my grandson when I see him, right? Mm-hmm. And so like it's very special for me. And like a lot of the players, I think, while they were playing, I don't like, because I'm judging guys that I played with. I feel that a lot of hockey players really didn't appreciate the times because they were so caught up in the moment. and they just didn't really take a step back and be like, wow, I'm playing like a game that I admire as a living, and I have people that adore me just because I'm playing this game. And I was lucky enough to kind of be able to take a little bit of a step back and realize that. And that's why I did so much community stuff, because I was just so proud to be a part of it, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 3-time AHL Man of the Year, I think, too, for your community work as well, right? But just kind of touching on the Quebec League a little bit here first. So when you had 86 fights in one season, like what was kind of the ride like that year? Like, you got to be going once or twice a night. Like, did it ever get to be too much, or was it kind of walk us through that year? How did it get to that point?
And to go with that question, how are the knuckles? Like, the knuckles got to be just like, oh my God.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, okay. I'm going to answer all the questions because this was probably one of my favorite years. So I actually really like to talk about it. So, man, the setup that I had that season in St. Hyacinthe, the team was called the Top Design. So the French announcer in the arena, like when he would say our team name, it'd be like, Le Top Design. Right? And it was just like, okay, so just picture this. Old school rink, old school barn. It was called like the LP Gauthier Center or something. That was the arena. The arena held, I would say, 3,000 people. Now, on a Friday or a Saturday or even a Sunday afternoon, like any day other than a regular weekday, we would pretty much fill the rink. So the atmosphere was like going to like a junior game when the rinks are filled. Like you guys know what that's like, right? Yeah. So it's that really small rink but full atmosphere type of stuff going on, right? Now, the way the league was set up at the time was it was all promoted around the tough guys. So you got guys like myself, you got Brandon Sugar Sugden, you got John Nasty Morasti, you got Steve Bosse, who ended up being like a almost undefeated UFC fighter right after this time period, right? We have all these big character guys. Now, we're all called numero un, number one. So they literally had a rating system that was 1 through 5 on every team. Like, it was unbelievable. Like, it was almost like I don't really know how to compare it, because it was so legitimate for that league for a player to be called the number 1, the number 2, the number 3. Everybody knew what they were talking about. That was the rating of the fighter system on their team, right? So it's pretty interesting. So now, mind you, these same ratings were the paychecks as well. So the number 1 is the highest paid guy. The number 2 is getting a little bit less than him. It's almost like, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for goal scorers. Okay. Like that's how it would work too with the salaries, right? So you got these fighters that the team's being promoted around, that the people that are coming to the game, they want to see a semi-pro hockey game, but they really want to see McMorrow versus Sugden. They really want to see that one. Or Morasti versus Sugden, Morasti versus Bosse. They really want to see that. This is their hometown hero fighter that fights every weekend for them, where they have multiple jerseys and t-shirts, and they support this guy. And it almost is like it is like professional boxing or UFC, because the fighter has a huge following, like more than anyone else on the team. So it was a league like no other in the world. My team was set up where the 5 guys that fought on my team, we were all extremely good friends. We all supported each other. It was like a brotherhood. So when the weekends would start, it was like we're entering the battlefield, and we had our brothers with us, and we're playing hockey, so it's fun. But like, we would know who we were fighting. Everybody was matched up. You wouldn't be there if you weren't confident, right? So I'm 27 years old, in the middle of my prime, the first time I went there, and I just thought I was unstoppable. I'm being called a number 1. I'm being paid more than I was in the AHL.
Really?
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, and a signing bonus to boot.
So would the fighters kind of guys, would they get paid close to, or like with compared to say the top scorers?
Okay, so
or more, because it sounds like that's the show for that league.
I don't mind. Yeah, I don't mind saying, and like when I've had like Morasti and Sugden and these same guys that I'm mentioning on my show, and we would talk about this, we don't mind saying it now because it was so long ago. So it's okay to talk about what we went through because it doesn't happen anymore. Even if it was like not like, and I will give you an example. The league was heavily influenced by biker gangs at that time as well. Okay, so you got, and again, this is a long time ago, right? So this is like telling a story at a campfire. Like it doesn't exist anymore. So it's okay to talk about, right? No one's going to get in trouble. We're all, everything's cool, right? Mm-hmm. But every team was influenced by the biker gangs. Money was being, like washed through the hockey teams for maybe other things that were going on. And you know what I'm saying? So like,
sounds like the Trashers 2.0, or you know what I mean, right?
If the Trashers, I told AJ too at Ice Wars, I'm like, bro, if you had gotten an LNAH team, you would have been so successful because AJ's mindset, bad boys of hockey, don't take any crap from anybody. All that stuff is every single team in the LNAH's mission statement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. How they sell, right? So, man, it was a spectacle. Like, I remember the two top teams, like back in the day, it was always the Chiefs and somebody else, right? So the Chiefs changed locations a couple of times. They were in Laval, then they went to St. John, then they went back to Laval, and like they moved around a little bit. They're currently in Laval. They're not called the Chiefs anymore, but everyone knows it's the same team of that Laval Chiefs. They just, you know what I mean? Things change, names change. But like Morasti versus Bosse was the big ticket, right? Back in 07, 08 era. Yeah. I remember being a guy in the league that was a top player playing for another team, got me and the guys on my team. We drove to St. Jean to watch the game. The arena was jam-packed. The standing room was like 6-7 people. Like, it was incredible. Like the spectacle that the LNAH was and kind of still is, and the guys that went there and the shows that they put on, I had never seen anything like it before. I couldn't believe that game, watching Bosse and Morasti go at it when everybody and their grandma was expecting it. Like it's quite a thing. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So during those years, like I think it was pretty known. Just like I always used to creep like the fighter forums and stuff like that. Like it was pretty well known. Like Bosse, Morasti, and you were probably the 1, 2, 3 heavyweights in that league at that time, right? So like.
But then there was guys like Sugden. There was guys like big Brandon Christian.
Yeah.
He was like, at that time, I mean, the guy was like, Brandon Christian, he was like 380 pounds or something. Wow. You know what I'm saying? And then that was at the same time that the Chiefs had Garrett Burnett playing for them. And everyone knows how big Garrett Burnett was, right? So like to see Brandon Christian and Garrett Burnett fight either in the Chiefs rink or in St. George de Beauce, where the team that Christian played for, man, it was. And then I don't know if you guys have heard of the guy named Joel Theriault.
I have, yeah.
He's crazier than all of them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, it goes on and on and on. And like Bosse and Morasti are kind of like more commercialized names. Yeah. Where everyone's heard of them. Mm-hmm. And then I know, like Mr. Fleming, like you and your co-host here, because you guys are such big hockey guys, you guys know about the Theriaults and the Christians and all those guys too. Mm-hmm. But man, they should do another documentary on that league because
100%, man. Yeah.
It was something, man. It was something special, man. I'm telling you.
Is there a documentary on the Chiefs from when they played in Laval? Because I think I saw something a few years ago.
It's
based, about all this, but I can't remember if I saw it all or what.
That movie, it came out in like 2003, 2004, and it was based on the 2001-2002 season where Laval wins the cup in that league, right? So you got guys like Craig Martin, who's actually my really good buddy now. I've had him on my show, and he was the number one at that time. Mike Bergerny, and it has a pretty good storyline because it goes deep in how they kind of use the fighters, and the fighters that weren't good players, they got screwed in the playoffs because they didn't get to play, and you know what I mean? But it shows how that league was at the time, and it's a pretty big eye opener for how big that business was in the province de Quebec.
Oh
Yeah.
For sure. Was there any fights or it sounds like a lot of them were kind of pre-planned, like you said, okay, we knew I'm fighting this guy tonight. Was there any memorable ones where, you know what, things just went crazy and maybe there's a bench brawl or whatever? Any big stories like that you can think of from that league?
Oh yeah, man. Okay. So the team that I played for, that St. Hyacinth Top Design, we were the regular season first place team. So we were the best team going into the playoffs, right? Yeah. So now, again, going back, every story kind of involves the Chiefs. The Chiefs are like the biggest market.
So who is the big heavyweight on the Chiefs? Sorry if I interrupt. Who is the heavyweight on the Chiefs? Who is the numero? Okay.
Steve Bosse. Steve. Okay, so when they had their crazy tough team, mm-hmm. it was Cote. Yeah, the big Cote that led the NHL in fights a couple years, that played in Nashville, and so that guy, he came to Laval and played. Garrett Burnett was on the team. Sugden was on the team. Bosse was on the team, and then this guy named Matthew Raby, Raby. He was a defenseman. Those five guys would start the game when they would go into any rink, and that was Le Show. That was Le Show. That's what they call Le Show. The show is the agreed upon combats, 1 through whatever. It has to be more than 1 for it to be the show, and that's how they explain it. It's very different.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But Steve Bosse, he was the number 1 guy.
But you're talking about guys that play in the NHL and they're coming down. I mean, I imagine that, because there's some money being washed through, that they're getting some decent paychecks. Yeah. There might even be some cash out the side, eh? Like they say in the Trashers, like $10,000 here and there, and all of a sudden,
Oh yeah. Well, let me tell you this one story. I got a signing bonus when I came to this league. That's how they kind of really get the guys. And there was a little bit of a movement because they changed the rules about 5-7 years ago, where there's an eligibility rule now where you have to go through the Quebec system to be eligible to play in the LNH. The Quebec system, the Maritimes, or Newfoundland. You have to play in one of those minor league systems to be eligible. Guys like me and Sugden that still think that we might be able to still play, if you've played 100 games in the league, you're eligible as well. But every other Ontario person is not eligible to play in the LNH now, unless you've already played 100 games. Okay. You have to go through that system now, and that way they're making it more fair, because teams like the Chiefs, they were just signing guys from everywhere, right? Like they were bringing guys in from the other side of the country, flying guys like Brad Wingfield, the star of the Trashers. Yep. When he was in the league, he played for Sherbrooke. When he was playing for Sherbrooke, he lived in Vancouver, man.
Oh, wow.
They were flying him in every weekend, right? But that shouldn't be allowed, because not every team can afford that, right?
Yeah, what budget is that? Holy jump.
Yeah, Sherbrooke was one of the higher, they had a bigger budget, right? So now, because Wingfield's played 100 games, he's still eligible to play. But if he hadn't, he wouldn't be allowed to play there anymore, because he didn't go through that system, right? So, yeah. But the one thing I wanted to add to what you were saying about the NHL guys is, before they made that eligibility rule, a lot of guys had little short stints playing. Even my guest the other night, Nathan Parrott, I was looking at his hockey DB. He played 2 games for the Chiefs.
Really?
Yeah, man. Right before I came to the league, Nathan Parrott had played a weekend, and then he ended up finishing the year with the Toronto Marlies, it says. If you look at 2008, Nathan Parrott, you'll see 2 games played. I think it's the Saint Jean Chiefs. It's when they were in Saint Jean, which is just outside of Montreal, right? So like they must have called. You see, me and Parrot, we didn't even get into that. We didn't even bring it up. But they must have just called them and been like, "Hey, we're offering X amount of dollars. Will you come and play for us for a weekend?" Like that's the way it used to be able to be, but it's not like that anymore. So, yeah, man. I mean, and I apologize for talking about this stuff so much, guys. But
no worries.
I'm just reminiscing, and
Well, I think it's awesome because I think like this is something that with any of our guests we've never really come across this league.
Yeah.
I don't think, or at least to this extent.
I don't think in the Quebec League, no.
Which is awesome.
The one thing, like just for like an idea, like for the next 20-25 minutes, whatever we got. The one thing that I appreciate is just the fact that trust me, if it was my choice, I would have, I got drafted to Buffalo, maybe 1 or 2 years in Rochester, and then boom, now I'm an NHLer, right? Like that's how all the young players think it's going to happen. But it doesn't always turn out the way you think it's going to be, right? But the AHL is such an important league because you get to play with like so many guys that like end up playing in the NHL and like stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like guys like Ryan Miller, who's a Hall of Famer. The Sabres are like retiring his number. He was my roommate for 3 years, man, on the road.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, man. Like my mom and like Ryan Miller's dad are like buddies, and you know what I mean? Like people don't know stuff like that. But because I was blessed enough to play in the AHL, I got to play with guys like Ryan Miller, Derek Roy, Jason Pominville. But me and Palmer are such good buddies, man. Yeah, these guys are all like my age, right? So we all went to Rochester together. Because there was a lockout year, I got to play like an extra year with some of these guys like Thomas Vanek, guys that
really,
would have went straight to the NHL. But when Vanek came, his first year was the lockout year, so I got to play a full season with Thomas Vanek in Rochester, right? And like, I mean, it's the experiences that you have with teammates, and like when your family comes to visit, and then your family gets to meet them, and then when it's multiple years, like me and Ryan Miller, 3 years, that's like a whole college stint, right? You know what I'm saying? Like we know each other really well. I haven't seen Millsy probably in like 12 years, but if I were to see him tomorrow, there'd be a big hug. Like, I still have a gag gift from him from Christmas. It's like a green shirt that has arrows and it says "Welcome to the Gun Show," right? Like when you do this, like the arrows coming up, like just little things like that, right? Yeah. And one cool thing about the AHL as well, guys, is like my good buddy Chris Thorburn. Okay,
yeah.
Now Chris Thorburn, he's a year younger than me. He ends up getting traded to Atlanta's organization, which turns into Winnipeg. This guy ends up being the all-time games played leader for the Atlanta Thrashers Winnipeg Jets organization. And he was my roommate. And when we were on the road one night, we're in our hotel room and the phone rings and he answers, and it's Randy Cunnyworth, our head coach. And Cunny's like, "Thorbs, I hope you're in a good mood because I'm about to tell you that you just got called up to the National Hockey League." Right. So like I was right beside this guy, like when he got called up, and like I've heard him tell the story in like podcasts like this, and it just makes me smile because I was right there.
That's awesome.
Called him, and but that's because I played in the AHL. Like if I was a big shot NHLer, I'd never get to experience any of this cool stuff. I would have made a little bit more money. But,
So what about your call up story, Sean? Because you got called up midway through the 2002-2003 season, right? So how'd that go down? Like you were in Rochester at the time. Who gave you the call? Who was with you? Like kind of walk us through that story. I'm sure it's a good one too.
And to add with that too, the day leading up to it, we always ask, guys, what was your first NHL game like? Like, did you sleep at all? Most guys say, "Oh, I can't sleep the night before." Yeah.
Well, I mean, so first of all, like I was blessed enough to play I think I played 12 preseason games or something like that over those 4 years under contract with Buffalo. But I only got called, I shouldn't say only, but I got called up for one regular season game, right? But the cool thing for me is that my one regular season game was against my hometown hockey night in Canada, Saturday night. Right? Buffalo versus Toronto in Toronto, right? So that's pretty cool when you're a kid from Scarborough And, your Saturday night routine was walking over to your grandparents' house and having hot chocolate and raisin bran toast and watching the Leafs versus whoever they were playing for Saturday night, hockey night in Canada. And then if you had enough energy, stay awake for that West Coast game, right? But the grandparents would be putting me to sleep by then, right? But that was that's how I grew up, right? Canadian kid from Scarborough. I put that out there because I'm working on a book that's supposed to be the title. Okay. So yeah, the Canadian kid from Scarborough, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how I grew up Saturday nights. And then just the thought of me playing in that, like of what I watched growing up, like I was like, it literally was a dream come true for me. And Brendan, I know I'm procrastinating on your question, but how I got called up was, this is probably about how half the guys get called up in the AHL. The coaches know that they're called up in the morning, but practice starts in the AHL, like at your practice facility or whatever. And then when the practice ends, coach calls you to the side. So for me, my coach was Randy Cunnyworth, my favorite coach. So Cunny, and you have to remember, guys, it's not uncommon for a fourth liner to get called over to the side because they're about to be told, okay, guys, we're going to do some quick feet drills. None of you guys played a lot last weekend, so we're gonna get you guys back in shape with a nice little skate right now. Everyone's just kind of like rolling their eyes, and we're just like, oh, okay, let's go. You do some 10, 15 minutes extra work, and as a fourth liner or fifth or sixth defenseman, everyone understands that that's normal. So I'm thinking that I'm just going to get bagged. That's why Cunny's calling me over to bag me in the corner. But he has this smirk on his face, Brendan, right? So I'm like, what's going on here? Like, did he like find out about something that I did? And like, wait a second, like,
who was I with last night?
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure. I'm like, did I do anything that I might get in trouble for here? Like, like he looks very weird. So anyway, I'm like, you know what? Let's find out. So I skate up. I'm like, hey, Cuddy, what's up? So he's leaning on his stick like this, how a lot of the coaches do. And he's kind of has this grin on his face, and he's looking at me, and he's like, Mac, congratulations, you're going to the show. Just like that, right? With a smirk on his face. So right away, I knew that that Buffalo was in Toronto on Saturday. This was on Thursday. So this is Thursday morning, almost noon, because practice is over. And Cuddy's just like, you got to report to the Marriott. It's really cool because Buffalo and Rochester are so close together. And we all obviously go to camp in Buffalo, and then it's a domino effect every year. So everybody, unless it's like your first year and you got cut right away from Sabres camp, you're pretty familiar with the hotel already because it's the same hotel, that everyone stayed in training camp. And the Marriott Hotel, that's right off the Millersport Highway, if you guys are familiar with upstate New York. It's pretty nice. The suburbs in Buffalo are very nice, right? So they have like all the things that we stay at kind of based in the suburbs, right? So yeah, he's just kind of like, you got to report to the Marriott this afternoon. So you got time, so just relax. I know this is probably, like a lot to take in. And I was just like, I just wanted to get off the ice so I could call home.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I got a pass with doing any extra skating after that practice. And I went right off. And, at our practice facility, we have to go through the room that we have all our clothes in before we get to the regular dressing room. So I was able to, to get to my spot right away, grab my phone. Now, this is back in like 2002. So it's probably like a big phone. It's like, but the American plans are so much better than the Canadian plans that I wasn't worried about calling anyone. I just called. The first person I called was my mom, and I called my mom and told her, Mom, I just found out that I got called up, and she's like, oh, Sean, this is great news. This is incredible. Who are you playing? And I'm like, I'm playing Toronto.
Oh, no way!
It's on Saturday, Hockey Night in Canada. Right?
Unreal. That's awesome.
Yeah, guys. So you know what I'm saying? So like, for my little tiny like sniff, taste, cup of coffee, whatever guys call it, right? For me, it's almost like I got like such a bigger experience almost just because of what team it was. And, and just the dynamics of it, right? The Saturday night, that was how I grew up. So I got to reach my dream for a short amount of time, but I mean, I got there. I got to meet a lot of cool people along the way, and I don't have any regrets because I believe I'm not even halfway through my life, and in the second half I'll be associating with a lot of the people that I met through hockey.
100%, 100%. But so just going back to that, what was like the day of, like, now it's Saturday? What was that day like? And then obviously the game, and you're in Toronto, would have been the ACC right back then.
Yeah.
What was it like?
And did the Leafs have a heavyweight at the time? Like, because I'm sure you're thinking of like, who am I going to, that kind of thing?
So let's make it interesting for the hockey people, which those are the people that are listening to the show.
Yeah.
So here's the buildup and the storyline. Now, a couple weeks before this call-up, there was a game in Buffalo. Toronto's in Buffalo. Tie Domi's on the team. Wade Belak's on the team. I think Tucker and Corson were on the team at this time too, or it might have been a year or two before they got there. But anyway, Domi and Belak are there. Okay. Yeah. Now, Domi was either hurt or something was wrong with him where he didn't make the trip. Like he was a scratch for the game in Buffalo. There was a scrum that ensued. And I don't know if you guys remember little Nikolai Ponikarovsky.
Oh, yeah.
I remember him. Yeah. Little, he's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked him. I used to use him in the video games quite a bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, so little Nikolai Ponikarovsky, just minding his own business. He's in the scrum. I don't know why Razor did this, but Rob Ray grabbed Nikolai Ponikarovsky out of the scrum and just like.
I remember this so well too. Yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So that's what happened. So now that year, Toronto was good. You guys had a playoff spot. Yeah. Buffalo wasn't. We didn't have a playoff spot. So the media tried to build it up a little bit. Oh, Rob Ray suckering Ponikarovsky. What's going to happen when Buffalo comes into Toronto? Will there be payback? So now Rob Ray, because Buffalo's not a good team that year, they do him a favor because it was supposed to be his last year. They trade him to Ottawa.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Okay. So they trade Razor to Ottawa to give him a chance to have a playoff run, right?
Yeah.
So now there's only Eric Bolton in Buffalo. I'm leading the AHL in fighting majors, right? I'm having a really good year in Rochester. I ended up leading the league with 41. I probably had like 37 or 38 at this time because this is like March 20. This is like halfway through March already, right?
Okay.
Yep.
If there's probably only like 15, 20 games left in the season, maybe less in the NHL. And so Buffalo just made the business move of let's reward this guy. He's having a good year in the AHL. It's his hometown. We need him because we just traded Razor. And that was a time that Buffalo would always have two guys. So, they killed a bunch of birds with one stone. They rewarded me for having a good rookie season. They called me up because that spot was needed. And there was a little bit of a storyline that something might happen. So I think they probably would have done that anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So, of course, whenever there's a big buildup, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Like, the game was in Toronto. Toronto's the playoff team. So they're just like, guys, let's just focus on, staying healthy and entering the playoffs. Buffalo might want to muck stuff up. They called up this meathead from the AHL, but just ignore him. And you know what I mean? Like, it was probably something along those lines, right?
Did you ask Wade that night or no?
Okay, so Domi played. They all played.
Okay,
everybody played. Okay, and I remember I got 2 shifts in the first period, 1 shift in the second, and that was it.
Okay,
right. I didn't see the ice in the third, but I think my second shift in the first period, I lined up against Domi. I said to him, I go, Domi, you got to give me a shot, bro. I've been watching you my whole life. Please give me a shot. And respectfully, he kind of laughed at me. Like he went like, like how he'd do. He was so animated, right?
Yeah.
He's like, kid, you got to make the team from the beginning of the year to fight me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
Which I probably would have said to a call up from the coast to the AHL. If the guy just got called up from the coast, I was like, come on, McMorrow, let's go. I follow you, let's go. And I'd just be like, buddy, I'm not fighting you right now, but I'll fight your number one, not you. Get out of here, right? You know what I mean? Like, so I don't blame Domi, but man, I wish that he had obliged because that.
Oh, no kidding.
I would have had that on my credit, you know, fighting my hero, right? So I would have loved it.
Once he said that, though, did you ever think like, hey, maybe I just give him a whack or two to see if I can stick something up? Or
trust me, over the years, you know, just think about the campfires. Think about, you know, think about all these times, right, where they're like, hey, Sean, man, that game you played, man, why didn't you just jump in Toronto's bench and just start meeting people? You would have been a legend. And you know what I mean?
Sundin or something, eh?
Hey, watch it.
Yeah, I could have done something. Maybe it would have worked, but sometimes things like those things backfire too, right?
Oh yeah, so for sure.
Sometimes you'll go out of your way to do something, and it was the wrong thing to do too, right?
Yeah,
So you know what? I'm happy that I got on the ice. I touched the puck. I made a body check, like little things like this that I remember. So I'm very content. Like I was, all I wanted to do was just be there. Like, you know, I'm a big fan, right? So,
what were the nerves like though? Like leading up to the game, and obviously, you know, kind of right before your first shift. Like, you know?
Okay, so for all the historics and political people out there, which I am, I'm into politics, history, culture. I'm a big buff like that. So this is the time that was very close to when the U.S. invaded Iraq. Okay. So I don't know if you guys remember, but, you know, and my buddy Don Cherry, you know, obviously he got involved with some of the comments. And, you know, so what happened was the weekend before my game, there was a game in Montreal. And for the U.S. national anthem, the U.S. wasn't liked very much, like, in the court of public opinion in the world at that time. People were kind of upset that they were just, you know, going in and, you know, the weapons of mass destruction and all that kind of stuff, right? It was very controversial. Yeah. So the fans at the Forum, it would have been I think it was the Bell Center at the time, they booed the U.S. anthem because of the politics at the time of, you know, this was just like about a month after they first invaded or whatever. And, you know, so they booed the U.S. anthem, and then Don Cherry went on Coach's Corner and was like, you know what? He's like, I don't like that the Montreal fans did this. And then he made the comment about, like, when your buddy gets in a fight at the bar, it may not be justifiable, but you still got to help him. Yeah. Right. And he was saying that for Canada and the US, right? Because we decided not to support them in this war. Canada did, right? Yeah. So now, fast forward the next weekend, CBC all during the week is saying, like, oh, we're going to see a lot of cheers at the Air Canada Centre to make up for the fans in Montreal, where they're, you know, because they pretty much, like, the talk shows and everything that week, what they all agreed on is that we have to try to be more kosher and support them somewhat and not boo them. So the game that I was in, intentionally, the crowd was extra loud for the national anthems. Okay. So now here I am, my first game, my hometown, you know, I'm an enforcer. So I got, like, a fight on my mind. I'm very young. Like, this is my first year pro. So I had turned 21, but it was the year that I was 20 because I have a January birthday, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm only I'm fresh 21-year-old, just a baby, right? And the whole Air Canada Centre is just like the roof is about to come off because they're just cheering so loud. It's the national anthem, and I'm getting really emotional. I'm very emotional. Like, I'm one of those guys that kind of that will cry once in a while. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's okay to cry, guys. Real tough guys can cry, right? But I'm a crier, man.
Tears last night when Elfie came out in Ottawa. So I hear you there, buddy.
I'm a crier, man. So I got the tears going. You know, my first NHL game, and then the crowd's going crazy. So the build up for me was just it was amazing, man. And like I'll never forget it. Like it was one of a kind.
Love that. Just, I know we're getting tight on time here, bro. There's one question I want to ask because we're from Belleville. As you know, you were at our celebrity golf tournament for Pay It Forward Sports last year. So the first time I remember Sean McMorrow, I think this was like a Sunday afternoon game in Belleville. and I think they used to do like a global game of the week or something. I'm pretty sure it's a global game of the week. But you got into a tilt with Jake Gilmore in Belleville. Do you remember this? And can you, because you were the heavyweight champion at the time, right? And Gilly's kind of like up and coming. That might have been like his first or second. Oh, but yeah, I think he was up and coming. So do you remember that fight? Can you kind of talk about it? Was it like a big build up to it? Because that was a TV game, I believe, was it not?
It was a TV game. Yep. I think it was the global game of the week or whichever one it was. It was a TV game. Absolutely right. Mm-hmm. Jake Gilmore was one of the toughest guys that I ever fought. And the thing with him is I think we only fought like 2 or 3 times. It was more than one. It was more. We fought more than that fight that was on, because that fight's on YouTube. Yeah. And it was a great fight. And I could tell that he enjoyed the battle. He enjoyed the battle. He was a real warrior. Okay. When he threw punches, he hurt me. Mm-hmm. At that time, I wouldn't really get hurt. That's why I was so confident, because I would fight guys like Cam Janssens, and Janssens would be firing away. And because I was like so big at like for that age, and you know what I mean? Like, and I was older, like this was like, I'm a January birthday. So I'm 20 years old playing my 19-year-old season. I turned 20 years old, and Jake Gilmore and Janssens, these guys are 17, 18 years old. So it's a big difference at that age, right? Yeah. Jake Gilmore hurt me every single punch. That's how hard he threw. Mm-hmm. Such a tough guy. Everyone that I've ever talked to just loves the guy. I heard he was such a good team guy. And, shout out to, I hope he's resting great up there, man. Like RIP Jake Gilmore, right?
100%. Yeah.
What a guy. What a guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But sorry. So the fight. So he's chirping the heck out of me in warm up, right? Because he wanted Jake was one of those players where he wanted to be the number one thing in anything he did. And he wasn't going to stop till he got it. This was my last year, right? And, guys were saying that, I was rated up there, and that's all he wanted to do was go after the number one guy. And I loved it. Mm-hmm. I loved it. I loved how he had no fear, and I loved how he wanted to put on the spectacle. And like, if you watch that fight on YouTube, McMorrow versus Gilmore, I mean, we go buckets off. Yeah. We're spitting our helmets. We're doing all this stuff, man. We're both, I'm 20, but we're both teenagers, right? And like, it's a pretty cool thing to see. And to be honest, I mean, they say that I got the decision, I think the commentators, but man, does he ever get me in that fight? If you watch those punches, he tags me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. And
you both tagged each other. Oh, yeah. It was a good one.
Oh, yeah. We tagged each other, but he got me with everything that he threw, is what I'm trying to say. I felt it in that one.
Sean, do you want to hear a funny story about this fight? So the last time I watched this fight, it was the night of the golf tournament that you came to prepare for Sports K. And shout out to one of our longtime listeners, Dave Alexander. He stopped by Shoeless Joe's after. And so I didn't see you when dinner happened, because I got stuck at the golf course kind of late. And some guy starts talking to me, oh, what a great time kind of thing. So I didn't see you at the dinner, but I saw you after. So it's probably about midnight, and you're coming back from across the street from the Best Western. And a couple of my buddies there, and Dave's one of them. And we're looking at this fight with you and Gilmore outside, because he's like, who's there? Kind of yada yada. So we're going through the thing. I show him the fight with you and Gilmore, and all of a sudden you walk across the street. And just at the time, Dave said something like, I said, oh, yeah, like McMorrow's the heavyweight champ. He says, oh, I think I could take him. I want the belt or something like that. And just literally as he said that, you're like walking up, I think with your girlfriend or something. And I said, hey, Sheriff, I says, are you defending the belt tonight? Because my buddy wants a shot at it. And you said, just 1 minute. And he fucking took off. He's like, no way.
I probably didn't even hear you. I was probably just like, just give me a minute and I'll come and join you guys. Because you guys looked like you were walking to Shoeless Joe's.
We were trying. There was probably like midnight or 1. Like I was trying to leave, and like they were just kind of wrapping it up. And then you get talking to guys outside, and he just says, before he says, I think I want a shot of the belt, kind of just joking, like drinking kind of thing. And then you roll up, and he was fucking out of here. He was gone. Oh yeah. No, that was just a good
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. You guys are the best. I have to admit though, guys, only because I'm comfortable with like kind of leading conversations because I'm a show host.
Yeah.
I apologize that I took up so much of the camera time, because I know that we have a limit. But man, did I ever have fun on the show with you guys?
Oh no.
We'll have you on again maybe another time this winter, right?
Yeah, I'm smelling a part
man,
two, buddy. I'm smelling a
come
part
on.
two.
Hey, anytime you guys need to fill it, man, call me because I love talking to you guys and it makes for great content and there needs to be good talk with hockey stuff. You know what I mean?
Absolutely agree.
I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
we love
Thanks.
your show too, and I think you're doing great work. And we would love to do more things with you with the podcast and with Pay It Forward Sports as well. So maybe that's something we can kind of connect on going forward.
We're gonna do some collaboration, boys. You just put it out there. It's happening. Now you're in it. Now you can't back out.
And we got our golf tournament booked again for next year. We'd love to have you there. It's going to be a ton of fun. So,
yeah, man. Yeah, and me and Brendan spoke about about that I might be able to get a hosting role, but you know what, Brendan, I was so not confident with the golfing, and then I'm so glad that I ended up doing it because it's so nice to golf with the hockey guys and the sponsors, and you guys did such a good job with the tournament. I can't wait to come back. You guys are awesome, man.
Well, it looked like you were having fun with your group too every time I saw you, and I don't think you guys had the Tiger Woods group, but it looks like you were there and everyone was hitting the ball and having a blast, and that's what it's about, right? So,
yeah, for sure.
Connecting with everybody and hearing stories, and they're probably asking about fight stories and all that too. So that's what it's about.
Awesome, guys. I really appreciate this tonight.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on, Sean. We loved it. Then we'll have you on again, buddy. Thanks so much.
Yes,